put it all in the welcome email every time. Like we gotta have that there, especially for us girls.
Yeah, it's not fair.
Our women, don't you think?
It's not fair, but it's what it is.
Is that too? Are we live? Hey everyone, we're live on all kinds of channels. We're hoping out there. Hey, so if you're out there in the is actually right now. She is going to be running the chat, and so if you make sure you put them in the chat, and those here in the room say hello to the people out there.
Hello.
There you go. So they love you even though you're not here, guys. So you're missing all the good food. It smells delicious in here, doesn't it? Thank you, Al. And this is like really booming for some reason. Yeah. Could you turn that down just a tad? We're getting like some massive feedback. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on. There.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, just make sure you hold it to yourself. Is there nothing on there? Hello? Oh, it might be dead. There you go.
Okay.
All right. Or I'm gonna have to turn this up for now. So hear us. We were having a little feedback, and I definitely did not want that in the room. So I'm really, really excited to be talking today with our guest, Alley Lyles. She is really done a lot of cool stuff around the using apps, your phone and all these lovely apps that we use on our phones. And so I would love to get started with this right away and talking about how you've used apps in the past. So my name is Cami Hoyes. I always forget to introduce myself, but I'm Cami, and this is Alley. And we can guess online if you want to by our names. I'm Cami Chat on everything, and you are Alley Lyles _. Yeah. So, and it's spelled Lyles, and Alley is Alley. Okay, good. And underscore. So that being said, make sure to tag us and use the hashtag SMBHOU here in the room too. Kind of pull everything together and find all this stuff later. And I'm sure people will be walking in because there was a ton of traffic this morning in Houston. So thanks guys out there for waiting for us to come. So tell me how you got started in this career field. Tell us a little bit about you and what you do right now.
So my name's Alley. Thank you for having me. I actually started in digital probably about 8 years ago. I worked in New York for the Bloomberg administration, worked on digital projects there, came back home to Houston, long story short, about 3 years ago. Started my own company and then started working in mobile apps, despite the fact that I know nothing about code. So I worked on a project for the University of Houston and did a VR 360 to recruit undergraduate students. So we basically did a simulation where if you open the app, you can see a VR video and walk around campus, which was amazing for recruitment. Did the same for University of Minnesota's Gopher football team for recruitment purposes in cooperation with Nike. And now I work at Direct Energy and have my own firm where I consult with small to medium-sized businesses and then also teach all things digital.
Yeah, it's really cool. So why apps? I mean, like, what was it about apps that kind of drew your attention?
I like apps because apps are a challenge. Everyone has an app. Anyone can upload an app into the Apple Store or Google Play. And so when it became so mainstream that everyone has, I have 64 apps on my phone and I use really only 3, that it became a challenge like, oh, you're gonna do an app like everyone does an app. And so I wanted to work in a field where I can make like the best app ever. And so I took on that challenge and I liked it. So I pursued it.
Yeah, so that's actually a challenge. Those of you at home, take out your phone and do a screenshot and share it to like your favorite social media, like all of the apps that you have. I think when I pulled it down, it was embarrassing because I was like over 100 apps or something crazy. But everybody knows that I'm like a complete nerd when it comes to like, tech. So anyway, that being said, good. So I would say a lot of people would say, I don't think an app, I mean, they kind of discount apps out of hand. So what is the biggest objections that you get to people, putting an app into their business?
The biggest objection is time. So the involvement of time. I used to mentor at Station Houston, and one of the things I always said to my mentees is if you're going to develop an app, It doesn't need to look slick at all. All you need is a MVP. And so one of the people that I actually mentored owned a lawn service. So that's all he did. He had a lawnmower and like a John Deere. And I said, you don't need this like flashy app. So the app that he created was 4 pages. It allowed you to open up, it had a welcome screen, it had a calendar, you can reserve your spot for him to come, and that was it. So perfect for his company because he didn't need like this amazing UI UX like from Netflix, beautiful sort of animated thing when you open. He just needed that functionality. So I think that's the biggest misconception is that, look, I don't have time for this in order to make it work for my business. And in actuality, he built that in like, I don't know, 3 hours, and it works.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And you said something and you kind of slipped right MVP. Can you kind of like spell that out and explain what you mean by that?
Oh yeah, like business nerd talk. Sorry. Minimal viable product. And it's one of the things that I think people forget about. Facebook, when it very first started, was a page, and it had some man's face on it. I still don't know who he was. And basically, you had the ability to friend someone and to poke someone. And then from, like, that's all it was. And then, like, from there, it expanded. So the guy from LinkedIn, Reed Hastings, oh, I forget his name, CEO of LinkedIn. He once said that if you start with a beautiful app, like, you launched way too late. So he's advocating for the MVP and saying you need to start somewhere and then listen to your audience and grow from there.
Yeah, and so that's actually another question I'm going to ask, because I think the biggest problem I would have is like, how do you get people to download your app, and why would people download your app? And so how do you kind of deal with that part of it?
Yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, there are a couple ways that we've done it in the past. I mean, obviously when you upload to the App Store, your description needs to be immaculate, and like the first 150 words are the most important, and that's what user feedback says. Another thing that I think some people overlook is user testing. So there's a software as a service called usertesting.com. And basically what you can do is upload your wireframes or upload your app and get user reviews. So whether they're bad or great, hopefully they're great, but not always the case, that starts to kind of get the word out. But to make yourself distinctive in 150 words is amazing, and something that is a notable icon, the simpler, the better. Has shown to be the most remarkable and the most impressionable for users.
So you called it userreviews.what? I'm sorry?
Usertesting.com.
Usertesting.com. You can type that into the chat if you could, Katie. And so yeah, usertesting.com. So let's like back up, because you talked about wireframes and all this crazy stuff. So let's start, like, if I have an idea for an app, and I do. So let's talk about my idea. So since I started talking to you, it's for you guys, okay? So I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we had like a social media breakfast app, right? What would be in that? So start talking me through what I'd have to do first.
I'm saying this from the perspective of someone who is a non-technical entrepreneur. I don't know how to code. I don't know Swift. I don't know anything like that. And I think there's a misconception that to be an entrepreneur, you have to know how to code, and that's actually very, very wrong. So if I were to start on your app, I'd actually start with a piece of paper and a pencil. I mean, that's old school, but bear with me here. So I teach a class where I say we can get you an app in 10 minutes. And all the students gather around the table, and I say, okay, what is your app idea? And I give them 2 minutes with a Google timer. They can see the numbers ticking down. And then with that idea, what would it look like in 5 stages? And they walk out with an app with a piece of paper. And one of the reasons why I do that is if you ideate on what social media breakfast app would be like, you'd be there forever. So there are, one of my favorite apps to use is bubble.io, like a big bubble.
Bubble.io, okay.
Yes. Cool. And it basically is like a Wix sort of system where you drag and drop and say, I want my app to look like this. You can upload photos. And then you basically, once you have the structure of what it looks like, you can implement the logic. So if this, then that. If the person clicks on this, then they're going to be taken to this screen, so on and so forth. And I've built wireframes, I would say, in like 2.5 hours, and part of that was because I didn't know what I was doing and I didn't want to take a tutorial because it took too long. But
when they have a tutorial.
They have a tutorial.
That's good.
When in all honesty, had I taken it, it would have been less time. But anyway, that's where I would start. So In the past, what I've done is I've built out wireframes and then handed them over to a real quote unquote engineer, a Swift engineer or a unicorn, and said, here's my idea. And at least brought him the idea of what's the social media breakfast app look like, and saved me like a bunch of money, because at least I brought him something instead of a blank slate.
Cool. And so like, do you have to hire an engineer to get your app made, or is there other ways to do that too?
I think that there are other ways to do it, but it depends on what your end goal is. So I built an app where I could hire, it was just a test, but it was to see, like, in any given place in Houston, where can I print something off Google Drive? You know, like, where can I find a printer around me? It was just a silly exercise. Can I find it in an office, like down the street, or FedEx Kinko's, which is an obvious one. And so what I did was, I didn't want to spend any money, but I wanted to try the concept and teach myself. So once I had that MVP, again, the starter, then that was fine with me. You know, it was 4 pages, just like the lawnmower service. But what I would have liked to do, if I was really serious about this silly idea, was to give it to an engineer and say, here you go. Because what happened is, when I showed my mom my app, she gave me a bunch of feedback. And if it was a beautiful app like version 1.0, I would have spent all this money fleshing out something that no one wanted. So that's how I would have got started.
Yeah, that's cool. And so, like, talk to me a little bit about the cost. So, like, if you bring an app to somebody to develop it, because I know that there's also portals out there where you can build an app like on a almost a Wix style app that just automatically goes up. So we can talk about that in a minute. But if you do hire somebody and do it the right way, I guess you could say, what kind of investment should you be thinking about making?
I mean, there are a couple of ways to go about this. I mean, I think when you hire an app developer, depending on whether they're a unicorn, meaning they can do iOS and Google Play, their rate goes up. So it depends on, one, what you want to service, and then two, what that person's rate is, obviously. So it could be like $150 an hour sometimes, which is obviously a very large investment. One of the ways I've kind of skirted that is by working with Flatiron District, people who are learning to code, and then interns to kind of save on costs.
So that's an organization in Houston, Flatiron District. Can you talk a little bit about that organization? Because it is a great one.
Yes, it is an organization that's fairly new to Houston. Basically, you pay to go to a camp, take classes, and learn how to code. So you can code PHP, Swift. It doesn't have to be app-oriented necessarily, but a lot of great students come out of that. And the idea is for them to gain real-world experience by coding your apps, or being routed to a sort of cPanel type place. But I'm happy it's here in Houston. Yeah.
So yeah, how do you get, like, I guess you go to they have a website, right?
Yes, they do have a website.
How do you get involved in that?
I have found students who actually like post their availability online. Okay. So like, it'd be like Houston Digital Jobs saying, hey, I just graduated from Flatiron. I'm looking for XXX. Can you help me? And then I say, yeah, I need this help. And then that's how we connect in the most basic way, because they're willing to put their services out there, and I'm willing to help and work with them.
That's awesome. Okay, so that's one way. Now, have you used any like builder type of apps like out there? Have you used any of those types of apps?
Like a Bubble?
Oh, you said Bubble, but the Bubble doesn't send it to like the App Store. Does it actually build the app, Bubble.io?
Yes, and then Appy Pie is the one, kind of like Apple Pie, APPIE. I almost didn't know how to spell that. Appy Pie.
Appy Pie is another one you can probably use. Okay, good. So there's a couple of ways you can kind of get your idea begun, I guess. So tell me a little bit about your wireframing. You talked about in 7 minutes. So you were talking about just writing it on paper. That's what you're talking about for wireframing. And then the Bubble. Is there anything else that we need to know about, like, or what do you do?
Yeah. So in my heart of hearts, I'm a digital marketer. And so I like to know what people want, why they want it, why are they doing what they're doing. And so actually, when I teach this class, I just skipped a step. So the first step is develop a user persona, which Sahar Paz was talking about a couple months ago when she was on Social Media Breakfast. If you missed it, you should go catch that.
Oh, and I'll talk to you about that in a minute. I've got a tool for that. Oh my gosh, do I have a tool for that? I'll tell you how to deal with that in a minute.
And basically, what I encourage you to do is to take 3 personas, like people who would want your product, and go through the exercise. There are a lot of worksheets online or tools like Extensio,
It's EXTENSIO.
SIO. Yeah, I think so.
Extensio. Yeah,
Yes,
that's right.
and those will help you build out your user persona. And like sometimes when we own a business, we think, oh, I already know who's going to buy this. It's a mom. She does laundry or something like that. But when you go through the exercise of writing it down, you're like, oh, I didn't even think about that. So once I do the user persona, or at least one of them, if not 3 of them, then I build the app as to how that person sees it. Because similar to, my printing app, which didn't launch, my mom sees it and uses it differently. She's like, why is this button here? This is stupid. Like, I can't see the screen, or gives me some very helpful feedback, even though, she's very supportive. But I think that's definitely the place to start. I am not a fan of people who build products and then think about marketing later, because it's kind of too late. No one's going to use their product otherwise. Oh, that's my humble opinion.
So you're saying they build it and it's not something people want, right? So if we were building one for social media breakfast, we would have like a couple of ideas. So, what I would maybe build a persona of someone who watches from home, or a persona from somebody who comes here, and that would have different use cases. I mean, if you come here, you might want, a quick link to your map app or something like that. Or, if you come here, you might want to have, exactly what's coming up and when, and all of that kind of thing. Whereas if you watch online, you want to know where to find the videos, you want to know how to get it, and you may even want to know that here. So, is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
So I would look at behavior, but then I would also look at user interface.
Okay.
So one time I was building an app for ExxonMobil, and it was for people who sell oil in the field. And I was noticing when I was looking at their recorded actions when they were testing the prototype, that they're pushing multiple buttons several times. And I'm like, why are they doing that? And the reason was, when they had the iPad in their hands and they had thick gloves on, they were finger poking?
Pecking.
Yeah, finger pecking incorrectly. So they were fat thumbing. They were fat thumbing because of their gloves.
Yeah.
So it meant that the buttons needed to be bigger, which is something like sitting at my desk and wireframing I would have never known. So I think that it not only is it appealing to your user with content, it's more so like, what does that look like and how does someone use that? There's a reason why when you open Netflix on your iPad, the squares are gigantic, because you want to be able to see the symbols, Matthew McConaughey's face in that movie, and you're like, yes, I'm going to click this.
So I know people are going to ask this question. What if it is a B2B type of app? So we've talked a lot of consumer kind of sounding stuff. So although this is sort of B2B in a way, talk to me a little bit about like what kind of apps people should be developing for that. Like, if they're
a good one.
I mean, you just talked about one. In the field, they have an app to do their job, right?
Right. So I think in my experience with building B2B, it's always more functional than it is beautiful. And I don't mean that in an awful way. Of obviously you have your exceptions, but the idea when someone's in the field is just to be able to access data and access the information that they need. So I mean, that overarching has been probably the most distinctive characteristic I've seen that makes it different.
Yeah, interesting. So like a usefulness, a utility, if you will, to it.
Right.
Because I mean, I guess, with apps, I've got 100 on my phone, but did I open them all this month?
No.
Probably not. No. I get enamored by something and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then like unless it's super useful and easy to use and all those things, then you kind of fades from your mind, right? Yeah. So that being said, I want to kind of open up for questions. I have more, believe me, so many more, but I want to start talking and having a conversation in here about maybe some of the things you guys are thinking about. Does anybody have an app idea that they're interested in? Yeah, so tell me, like, Anne has an app idea. You want to talk?
Hey, Anne.
I'm going to run a mic to Anne.
Oops, sorry.
Hold on a second.
You got to start somewhere.
I'm coming out in the audience. I'm doing an Oprah.
So, hello.
Hi.
I am a big craft beer lover. Who else loves craft beer? And I belong to this Facebook group of craft beer lovers that are just women. There are like 15,000 women here. And there's been a recurring post about trying to find a partner or date with someone who likes craft beer as much as they do. And I was like, a dating app for craft beer lovers. How wonderful was this? And I've already done a Survey Monkey, and I had about 150 of these women respond to me, and we're just trying to come up with a name and wireframe it and decide how to create this easily without spending a huge ton of money just yet. That's my app idea.
What would you do with that app? A craft beer dating app.
I'm only quiet in your app, like craft beer wise.
Yeah. A niche dating app, kind of like when we had the app here about the people that are dating. I wasn't here, so I don't remember exactly what it said, but you were here to do it.
The adventure,
which is the adventure app. So Anne, who was just talking to you, she was our Jeff. Thank you. I wasn't here. So Jeff was talking to Anne about how he put together this app for people that wanted to go out and have adventures together, like in hiking and more in the activity sort of area. So I think that's really interesting. So yeah, somebody to go out to have a craft beer with. That's super cool. Interesting. Okay, great. We have an online question. Yeah, Katie.
Hello. How do you monetize the apps as most are free?
So yeah, how do you monetize an app? Most apps are free, especially in the Google Play. I know in Apple, they tend to have more that are $1.99. But
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, what's $2, right? I understand why they do it.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's an amazing question. And I think that there are lots of programs out there where you have to start with advertising. And when apps first started coming out, like I would say in the mainstream, like 7 years ago, if not before then, one of the things that was annoying was a gigantic pop-up screen. It was so annoying. Like you were trying to go to do something, and then it was this big full-size screen thing, took up 80% of the screen. And then it didn't really get a lot of engagement because it was annoying. One of the things I would say is there are programs out there, I believe Amazon might do it, where the apps or the advertisements are native looking. So they blend in seamlessly with your design, with your branding, and what it looks like. I think at the end of the day, that's the best way to monetize it.
So you probably have to design some spots for that in your design phase, right?
Yes,
So like
yes.
like that's actually a good idea anyway. Even if you don't, to have like a little bit of space in your app so that someday if you decide to monetize, you have the space to do it instead of having to go back to the drawing board and redo everything. Also, what about like the app being the gateway to a bigger product? You know, like they would get a taste of who you are, kind of like the webinar. You have a webinar, you kind of get a taste of what something is. You're like, yeah, I'd like to work with that person, and then have something a little bit more in depth.
No, I think so. So I use Canva a fair amount. And one of the things that Canva does on the phone is actually a really beautiful interface. But if I want to use the latest and greatest things like GIFs and animations, I have to pay to get a membership for that. But because I'm a devout Canva user, sure, I'll pay for it.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one. Unfortunately, I'm right alongside of you. Me and Canva, oh, yeah, like that. Yeah, that's what Katie just said. Katie and I use Canva like daily. Yeah. Search optimization for the App Store. This is a great question. How do you get your stuff, seen in the search for the apps?
So one of the things that I've heard unanimously regarding this, and this is actually still fairly new for mobile stores and promoting these mobile apps, was the 150 words. If you look at the Google will most likely crawl the first 150 words, and that actually makes sense because when you're in the Apple Store, that's the first thing you see. If it isn't interesting and isn't engaging, I probably won't even download it. And I download random apps all the time and have them on my phone and never use them.
Well, and I think keywords too, because I mean, when people like search the stores, you're searching for a specific thing. Like, so what questions are they asking, or what app are they looking for? Like, Instagram scheduling or something. I mean, what are people searching for in your world? So I don't think it's very different than like a blog post and doing SEO optimization for a blog post. You're wanting to think about the keywords people are asking when they're asking the questions. So I think you're going back to your persona that
Mhm.
might be a really good place to start, right? What
Mhm.
would that persona ask? Right.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, I think the tools that I've used in the past are SEO Moz, Bright Edge, or not. But you would actually be pretty surprised. I was looking for a dating app once, and I clicked dating app as in the category, and I think the fourth one that popped up within the first 150 words that I saw didn't mention that it was a dating app. I was so confused. And I was like, well, who would want this? And then when I opened it, because I was confused, not because I was interested, I was like, oh, that's what it is. But most people won't do that because I had a little bit more time that day.
Yeah, no, most people won't click through, right, to
No.
find out what it is. So what about like, I mean, a lot of these apps that I think we would make, like I'm thinking about social media breakfast app. It's not like I'm going to go out to the world and try to get the world to download the social media breakfast of Houston app, right? I mean, maybe we would, but what would be like just the marketing inside of your community? How do you tell people about your app? Like your lawnmower guy, he says you have to book through that app or what?
Yes. So you have to book him coming to your house through the app. And then he shows up with his lawnmower, mows your house, and then he's gone. So it's pretty awesome service, actually. I mean, I think you would most likely do it through the current channels that you already have. So one of the things I would do is like promote it in Social Media Breakfast Houston, a lot of the marketing channels here. But because Social Media Breakfast Houston is part of a larger network, that's something you can leverage in terms of marketing. So I would do that. That'd be cool. And then one of the things I did the other day is reviews are important. So I would encourage people to look at the reviews and write reviews. As a business owner, there are ways to politely and kindly ask the people who use your app to actually make a review. In the past, for apps that I've worked with that have memberships, like I've worked with dating sites before that have memberships, if you're going to talk to a certain amount of people or not, we gave them free membership. And for them, it was actually, you know, they were like, wow, but for us, it was retention. It's easier to retain or less costly to retain a customer than it is to acquire a new customer. So it's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah. Yeah. So you're asking about content and like what stuff should be in your website, what stuff should be on the app, or are you asking like should you pull the stuff? I mean, you can pull an RSS feed into an app, for example. Okay, so should you use your app to drive traffic to your website?
Of course.
Yes.
It's
Yes,
a
yes.
cross-channel promotion. Why not? Otherwise, you don't want the two to live in two planes, right? That way people can learn how to find you. And obviously you would tag that traffic just to see like how people are coming in and the efficacy of you sending traffic to your website.
So like you would use a UTM parameter probably inside of your, if you don't know what that is, but just you can, yeah, UTM, I mean, some people might. Access Houston airports. Oh, cool. Oh, that's super cool. Okay. Oh, I got you. So they like, okay, so he's got, this is the Houston airport system, and they have an app that is really for access of people that have like disabilities. So like if you have like a hearing or a vision, or can you like book one of those wheelchair people through there? That'd be cool. Oh, it's a specific service through airlines. Got it, because this is actually the airport system. Got it. Okay, so it's to use to find the things you need while you're in the airport and before you get to the airport. If you are vision impaired and any hearing impaired,
disabled.
autism,
Mhm.
all sorts of stuff. So, like inside of the app, how would he drive them back to the website in a meaningful way? Because I don't think you just drive them back to the homepage, right?
No, I mean, there's I would think that in the airport website, and I'm sorry, I haven't seen it, there'd be a disability section. And there'd be a disability section. One thing I would say is you would download that One thing I would say is I would actually download that app in a heartbeat. Reason being is I don't want to call the 1-800 number for the airport. I don't have time for that. And so that is part of the driver for this. And I think that if there was like a call to action under the disability section to say, hey, download our app, people would immediately see the value of that. Because if they get in trouble when they get into the airport, like, I don't know, someone's not waiting for them, or it's 15 minutes to when they're supposed to be taken to X point, then they use that app. And I think that's absolutely remarkable. Good job for y'all for doing that, because I don't have time for the 1-800 number. Who does?
Work now? I was just wondering if, yeah, maybe.
Okay.
No, that's really great. In the back? Oh, yeah. So she's asking about apps with financial transactions. And actually, this is one of the questions I wanted to get to too, which is security and safety. We've heard a lot of stuff about apps being like bad code being injected in them, or being hacked and then bad code injected in them. A bunch of apps from the Play Store I know were recently taken out of the Play Store. So could you talk a little bit about security and that's a different level of app, obviously, than the one we're talking about today, but yeah.
Yeah, no, this is a great question. I think it's obviously an app that when it goes to market has to have gone through lawyers and all these things to make sure everything's okay. That's been the case with apps. I've worked on one app in this space. The MVP doesn't necessarily need to be like that. I wouldn't do financial transactions without having engineers implement security software. Like that's just point blank what I would do. But one of the things I would work on is that there's a company in Austin that is probably a gold standard for fintech, and it's called a FiniPay, AFFINI Pay. And what they do is they're actually like kind of a plug-in service where you can plug them into your mobile site. And this is not unique, by the way. They're just really good at what they do. You can plug them into your mobile app, and that takes care of the transactional part. So you don't have to build the transactional part yourself. It's like putting a hat on Mr. Potato Head, and then it all works together. So that's probably one of the best ways to do it. I wouldn't recommend building yourself unless you really, really, really know what you're doing, because companies like that understand the profit and loss from that, and kind of what the repercussions of best practices. I would not recommend building that yourself unless you have like experts on board. But yeah, that's the way you kind of take care of that, is kind of the plug and play service.
Yeah, that's really great, because I know there's Mint and Capital One, all these things. I mean, they're out there, right? So they've got, yeah, Zelle, yeah, Zelle, Zelle, yeah, yeah, cool. There was a hand back there I saw. There's a bunch of them. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure there are. Have you used any of these online cloud-based app things to build your apps yet?
Yes, I have actually. I use AWS. It depends on the scale of your app, right? So I keep referring to the lawnmower service, but he doesn't need one, right? He doesn't need a cloud. He doesn't need that investment, because in AWS or something like AWS is very expensive. Amazon Cloud, sorry. Yes, Amazon Web Services, owned by Jeff Bezos and co. Yes. Yeah, exactly. But if you have a service like the oil rigs, like the ExxonMobil Enterprise app, where they need their Salesforce to be able to know where they can find fleets to sell to, that's a lot of data. It's data throughout North America, including Mexico. So that's something that you would have that amount of data would go through AWS or one of those services. I'm not promoting AWS, but that's the scale. Rackspace, yes, out of San Antonio. Yeah, so I think that's the level, but not necessarily for smaller, medium-sized apps because it is an investment. But I think one of the things about AWS and a lot of services like Rackspace is that they do a lot for you. So it's like one of those things where it's like, do you hire a contractor or do you do it yourself?
And I don't know if that's exactly what you're asking, because you may have also been asking about the ones that have them out there too. I know that there's, if you do like a search for, build my app online or something, I know that there are services out there that do it. The funny thing is that, this is obviously a huge thing, but I don't think a lot of us have thought about it as part of our marketing mix. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, this is actually a really good question. The cost of developing the app is less than actually putting it through the process of getting it online, either on the Play Store or the Apple Store or the Microsoft Store, because they have that too, right? And then there's also native apps, which is a huge part of like just going to a website, and then when you get there, it's just natively looks like an app. So can you talk a little bit about the differences and like what is the best way to go for different companies?
Okay, so I'm gonna give you an answer that you're not gonna like. So I forewarn you, it almost has to go through the Apple and Google Play Store. In order to have that exposure, you can have native apps, but you have to have a niche audience that's like that diehard niche audience who's gonna want to go there and download it. Yes, it is, expensive. Yes, there is an expense to put it there, but one of the things I would actually say is that if you look at Google Analytics, if you're kind of set up that way or you have a good sense of your user persona, then you know who's coming into your website and you can break it down by mobile device. So if you see that your crowd is more of an iOS user, Apple user, than they are Android, then maybe beta test putting it on the Apple Store first. But by and large, I think that native apps work for sort of niche groups. Like for example, the idea of the craft beer, I think that'd be kind of cool because you have 15,000 women descending onto one community. They're all going to use the app. But if it's a crowd that most likely doesn't know you, they're going to have to find you in the App Store because they don't know your brand. They might stumble upon your brand, but they don't trust you enough to, go and look at your app natively. They probably want to see. Whenever your app is in the Apple Store or in Google Play, there's a certain amount of legitness. I'll just make up that word. Where if they don't know you before, then it might be helpful.
And that's actually a really good question too. So, how much? I mean, let's go back to your lawnmower guy because it's a good one. How much did he put it up on both Apple Play and also iOS and Apple and Google Play? I'm going to say this right in a minute. Google Play and iOS. And how much did that cost him?
I'm not sure how much it cost him, but he knew that a lot of our customers were Android users. And Android is actually pretty unique because you can just put up your app and it's usually there within 4 hours. It goes through a not very intensive review process, whether you like it or not. And Apple is a little bit more like 2 days because it's more thorough. So he wanted to do it that way because at least he could get it out there to the people who needed it the most, who he knew his customers were. And it really started very grassroots. It was just like he went door to door in his neighborhood, and this is in like 2018, and asked people what phones they use in the neighborhood, and overwhelmingly it was Android. And so that's why he put it up in the store. So it's guerrilla marketing.
Grassroots, no pun intended. So yeah, so like how much I just want to know, like, is it $25 to put up there? Is it $100? Is it $300? How much does it cost to put up an app?
I would say it could be 75, around that ballpark.
So $75 on both or on Android? Somebody know? Is it depend on the size of the app? Okay, so it depends on the size of the app and how many downloads you think you're going to get, or is it down to the cost? Yeah, it depends on the app. So for a small app like a lawnmower company, it's not going to be like thousands of dollars. I'm just trying to be realistic here. Yeah. You pay $100 a year for 4 apps in the iTunes store. Thank you. That's what I'm looking for. Is some sort of parameter. You're not like 10 million downloads or something, right? Right. So she's an app creation company, and so they do virtual reality, and if you do AI or anything like that, then you're starting to use different parts of the toolkit in the app store. So that gets very technical very fast, and you hire like one of these people whenever you get there. Okay, so if you have like that going on, let me know, and you'll give me your name, and I'll send you guys some people. So just let me know. But if you're out there and you're like, I don't know how to do this, I don't want to do this, let me know. So is there any other questions online, Katie?
All right, so Kerwin asked, do you really need an app, or could you just build a website that's responsive and mobile friendly?
So do you really need an app, or can we go for mobile friendly? It's a good question.
It is a good question. You don't really need an app all the time. I think that that's probably what I should have led with for this entire thing. But it's what makes sense for your business at the time. If your business is very small and you only do one thing, then what is the utility of an app? You also have to think of resources and internal bandwidth. Does it make sense for you to even wireframe something Wix looking style that takes you 2 hours? Or is that resources that you can put more towards like flyers or Google Ads or whatever it is that you're working on? It's really only if it makes sense. There is a lot to be said for having a beautiful, responsive site, just something that's functional. But it doesn't always, you don't always have to have an app by any means.
Well, and I also say you should always have a beautiful mobile responsive site. So, I mean, whether you have an app or not, you need a beautiful mobile responsive site, because Google really gives you, it dings you if you don't have a mobile site at this point. So if you don't, and it's not HTTPS, which we can talk about as well. I actually had my guide, I'm like, make them all HTTPS, when that came out. So I just hire somebody to help you with that, make sure it is mobile friendly and secure. So those are the two things, so that you get found in Google search. It's really important. But I'd say for an app, it's got to be something really juicy, something people really want and want to open, and that is useful enough for them to open it. So that's one of the things. And I was going to say, so this week I'm going to kind of do a little tool tip every time now, because if any of you know me really, you know that I'm like, I try all these tools, and I do some stuff with that. Well, a new tool came out this week that is really impressive. It's called Searchy.io, and Searchy.io is a tool that allows you to pull down video into a widget, and then that widget, you can go in there and search for by keyword, and it pulls you up to the exact moment somebody said that keyword in the video. So I have just downloaded everything from Social Media Breakfast, at least over the last year, all the way 4 videos, guys, that we've done at Social Media Breakfast over the years. I'm going to pull it all into the app. You can actually search the app for those things, and I'm going to be able to put it on the website. That's a little searchable, mobile-friendly website thing. But I'm also going to find out, hey, wouldn't that be cool to like dump that into an app where you could pull it up and you could look and you could search for any keyword from anything we've ever talked about. So if you put YouTube in, anytime we said the word YouTube, and you could go down through and see which one made the most sense to you based on the sentence, it pulls the sentence. So you can say, oh yeah, that's what I want to know, and click on it and go directly to that piece of video. So something like that, I think, would be awesome on an app. I don't know, this is my thought. Searchy.io, and if you really are interested in it, I actually have a link for it. I shared it on Twitter yesterday, but I'm having Katie put it in the chat right now on this thing, and you can. there's a little bit of a deadline with it. You can buy it anytime you want, but tonight at midnight the price goes up. So I wanted to let you guys know about it. So there's a webinar that he did to explain it and kind of walk through it and show you how it works. But I was able to hook it up to Facebook, and it downloaded all 44 of the stuff from our social media breakfast page in a couple of hours. It's all there. And then all I have to do is click on plus to process the ones I want to. And I went with the highest package, which I think was $100 a month or something. And it processes 15 hours of video per month at that level. And it also makes transcripts of everything. And so you can actually download those. And they've got a pretty cool roadmap for what they're going to do next. I'm really excited about it. So, if you're a person who makes a lot of videos, I would look into it. It's hooked up to. I think they're waiting for YouTube to say yes. Like they're that new, so they are in the process of getting YouTube and also podcasts, which of course I have one. So I've got over 100 episodes now of Communities That Convert. So we'll be able to pull in all over 100 episodes of Communities That Convert. And then you can actually search those as well. And we've given tons of information on those. So if you are a content creator, I mean, that's to me is something that you could turn into an app that would be extremely useful for people. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Especially if you cross-tagged it, I think that'd be super cool. Like if it was, mobile, and then it was, I don't know, software talk. So you had like sub-trends. Be kind of like a cool flip board, like to be able to flip through videos based on your category that you were interested in.
It's not, it's not set up that way right now. How I found it is because, pretty much my ears to the ground on all new tools out there. It's just kind of true. So a little bit of a freak that way, maybe. Yeah. So anyway, so if you're interested in it, let me know, and I'll definitely, we put the here, but if here right in the room, I actually have it pulled up on my laptop. So afterwards, you guys feel free to come play with it. It's insane. I've never seen anything quite like it. So those kinds of things that you can offer to people, and that's actually got a background where I'm not doing the data on that. That's not my data. It's somebody else's server, right? So I'm buying into it, and I'm going to pull it in. Other online questions? What time is it? 9:28. We have time for at least one more in the room, or two. Let's go with you.
Right. So I think it's a matter of real estate. So I always say start small and then grow. So I think what she was referring to is that if you have a mobile device and then you create for the entire face of the screen, if the bottom part of it, people are tweeting at me, that's why my phone is lighting up. If the bottom part of it is a white version, right? So you have the version A, which has all the content, and version B, which has the where it would be. So, one of the things is I've done this before where we were getting the app together, but we were also in conversations with the advertiser, and we weren't done yet, but it shouldn't prohibit the speed of the app going to market. So when we finally finished, we inserted the app, and then we reloaded a newer update to the Apple Store. So it's something that you want to kind of keep some room for space for.
Yeah, and I can show you. And I don't know how the ads work on the Apple Store. Is it like some code you have to put in yourself, or is it like how does the can you sign up for that when you're on this? Can you explain advertising?
Yes. No. It's there are companies out there that will help you basically plug in very similar to what I was speaking to FinTech earlier. And so they say very much like Google Ads. I mean, you have a skyscraper, or you have a little square website. Similarly, you can plug in the same services into your app site or into your app. Of course, if the impressions that go in the app, but it's not something you build on your own. It's just basically you say to the advertising company, hey, you have this little square down there. That's where you plug in. And then that's where the relationship begins.
And so do you do that coding then in your own app, like, or have somebody do it for you, or is it you have to do it yourself? So yeah, I'm looking at this, like, this is my recipe app, and you see at the top it says Bush's Beans or whatever. They've left like a little banner on the top, and this is my shopping app. This is what I use to go get my food and stuff. So they have these, and then they also have these, unfortunately, very annoying big pop-ups that come up that start playing a video, and then after about 5 seconds, you can click off of them. Since it's a free app, they're like, hey, this is how we pay for our app. But what could be cool is at first, if you don't have any advertisers, you could actually just put your own advertisements there. So hold the space with your own stuff. That could be really good too. Okay, good. So we answered the question. Good. One more question? Yes. Okay. Progressive web app versus mobile responsive site.
So what did you learn about the progressive? Yeah, so the question was progressive versus responsive. So I'm not a fan of progressive. Reason being is it's usually a scaled down version of the website. So if it's, let me think of something. If it's like, this is not a great idea, but if it was like beauticians in your area and you just want to get your makeup done, then the progressive would be just the makeup, or like kind of a scaled down version of the site. So it's a little bit more useful for the person who just wants that one thing. That's probably not the best idea, but responsive is the entire website, and some people just don't want to have to deal with that.
Right. And I don't know if you've ever seen this before, but I've seen it before. You're on your phone, you go to a website, it gives you that, I didn't know it was called a progressive whatever. It gives you that, and then at the bottom it says, go to full website. And almost always I click on that and I'm like, oh, I can't see the full website, So it's like, I think she's right in saying that I would prefer to have the whole website be responsive rather than this little portal of like one thing that it does. Because that they think that I want, that I may not want. So anyway, they think. Anyway, I want to just thank you so much for coming and having this conversation with us. I know a lot of us haven't thought about this in this way. Some of us here have. I mean, some of you guys have amazing app businesses and apps that you're putting out there. Thank you so much for coming and having this conversation, and we'll keep it open. So give her a hand for coming, and thanks so much. I have a couple of announcements. It is raining really hard outside, number one. Hopefully somebody has an umbrella around here. Number two, we are going to be having the gift of guidance, our annual gift of guidance, which is in December, coming up right away. It feels like it's not there, but I'm telling you, we're going to be at December before we know it. I'm going to be sending out an email later today that has, it's going to ask you guys to please volunteer. So I need, and we usually ask those specifically people, but you can sign up if you're interested. I also need scribes. Those are people who sit at the table and take the notes and get those back to the nonprofit. I often have trouble finding enough of those. That is such an important position because that's exactly what they need after the thing is over to get the work done that we talk about. So you just bring your computer, and I actually give you a form to fill out, and you just put what they say in the form. It's not that hard to do. It's like a really simple thing. And then also, I need people just to sit at the tables. And this year, we are going to be having this at the Houston Chronicle. So, woohoo! Because I don't think this space will quite work for our that particular thing because we pulled the tables around. But I'm so excited. Loida's here, and she's helped me with that. Are you here still, Loida? Did she leave? Oh, there you are. Okay, I'm like, where are you? Okay. Could you come on up for a second? Because she also has another announcement she wants to say. So I want you guys to just thank Loida because she actually made this possible. So thank you very much, Loida. So she's kind of serving on my informal formal committee this year.
Yeah, when I saw the space, the new space, I thought that would probably be much better space for this, because we have a really big auditorium, and if any of y'all were there for social media day, y'all probably are familiar with the space. So we're going to be using the big auditorium there. So we're really excited to host it, and just warning y'all that the parking is terrible right now. Not the parking, the getting there into our parking lot is just a challenge right now. So really try to get there early that day, because the feeder is closed between West Park and Newcastle when you're coming back around. But there is a way to get in. I'm just warning y'all. And then we have to exit y'all. Yeah.
We'll do a seriously good explanation of it. Hold this really close to your mouth.
Yes, definitely. So yeah, when the time comes, we're definitely going to have directions on how to get y'all in there and a map and everything, because it can be kind of tricky because of where we're located on the corner of 610 and 59. So anyway, besides that, thank you so much for letting me make an announcement. Just wanted to let y'all know that the Chronicle has been hosting a series of marketing seminars the last couple of years, I think, Chris. It's been going on for about 2 years now. And they're free and open to the public, and we do a really great rundown of marketing tips. Our VP of marketing does this, and it is free, and free breakfast, and a free quarter page ad for attending. So it's really great if you have a small business that you need to advertise for, whether it's for a client or for your own business. So y'all are all invited. We are having one in the Sugar Land area October the 29th, and then on October the 31st, which is Halloween morning, but it's early. It's at 8:30 in the morning at the Houston Chronicle building also, which is at 4747 Southwest Freeway. So y'all are all invited. Paula, my colleague, is here as well. We have flyers with the information. If y'all want to know more about it, we can give you our emails, and so y'all can register online to attend. Anyway, I think it's a really great. I've had people that have done marketing for years that have attended, marketing managers for big companies like Man Clinic, that have said, I'm so glad that I came, because these are some great refreshers, because sometimes you just kind of get into the day-to-day work and forget some of those important points. So please come to us after I think we'll be here for a while after the breakfast, and talk to Paula Phillips and I. Paula, you can raise your hand. She also works with me at the Houston Chronicle. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm actually grabbing the volunteer form, and I'm going to dump it right now into the stream, just so you know. That's what I've been doing right now. All you have to do is to volunteer for the gift of guidance is to go onto the that page and just fill out the form and say, yes, I'm interested, and click the things you're interested in. I also need judges. That happens beforehand. You do that from home. That you look at all of the nonprofits, and I give you specific criteria on how to judge them too, or one of those things, or all of them. I don't know. You got to tell me what you want. Yeah, do it all. Do it all. It's awesome. I'm going to tell you that the people who've done the gift of guidance, can you raise your hand in here if you've been there and done the gift of guidance? Does somebody want to give a testimonial about what that's like? You want to do it? Yeah, I'll let Mila do it. Okay, Mila, why don't you tell them, do you get something out of this? Tell me what you got out of it.
Yeah, so I've done it in two ways. I've done it as the nonprofit receiving feedback and getting help, and then also as a table leader, just providing some feedback to the nonprofits. And I think the thing that I get from it most is, one, a good use of my expertise. So I actually realize that I know what I'm talking about, and I can give good feedback to people and help them with the things that they're struggling with. And then something that is also super useful for you as an attendee, and then just kind of the nonprofits who are attending, is that you just get a good overall perspective from someone different. And so sometimes when you're in your daily work, you're constantly looking at the same things, and you can't always see beyond some of the issues that you might be having. So it's always good to kind of sit with people who are having some of those similar issues, and then being able to talk them out. So it's a good event. You get a good feeling afterward too, because there's kind of this breath of fresh air. People feel just more comfortable in what they're doing, and they've gotten great feedback that they can take back and apply to their daily work. So if you have time in December, definitely dedicate some time to do it, because it is a really, really fun event, and you get to meet a lot of different people who you can connect with later on too.
And we will have food there. It is, I think we're gonna have a taco. We decided taco cabana's coming, so it's like buy your own in that case. And then I am looking for a coffee sponsor. I'd really like a coffee sponsor. So if anybody knows, we talked about coffee sponsors a bit, who's willing to either pay for it and get like some sort of, recognition or whatever, because it'd be nice to just give people free coffee because they're there helping, so I'd like to be able to do that. So if anybody knows somebody who's interested in that might be a good fit, let me know. Also, jobs. Does anybody have any jobs right now that they have available? Oh yes, my jobs. I did kind of. I didn't realize I was doing it, but yes, I did it on purpose.
Thank you, Cami. Hi, good morning. I'm Trish with Brookwoods Group. And yes, and we have right now two, they're visual design positions. And one is with a global oil and gas company, and the other is with a retail establishment here locally. They're both contract positions, long-term, and they're awesome opportunities. So if you know of anyone that's looking for that type of an opportunity, please send them to brookwoods.com or to me at trish.cunningham@brookwoods.com. Thank you so much.
Sure, and you can actually, if you are cool with dropping those links to your website in the, so we also have a post on the page at socialmediabreakfast.com, or not social, on Facebook page, what am I saying? Social Media Breakfast, and you can drop your jobs there.
Yeah, so I would like to advertise a marketing director role at Snapstream. Snapstream is an awesome company that's associated with Verizon here in Houston, and Rakesh and their team is amazing. So I would look into that.
Cool. And again, if I can get the link from you, we'll put it in the the Facebook page. One more, it looks like.
All right, we were looking for a client relationship manager. This is for Myriad Global Media, and we work with a lot of international clients. We're a corporate communications agency. So we do a lot of visual communications, from documentary filmmaking to app development, of course, to website design and animation, VR, that sort of thing. So we're looking for a client relationship manager who can work with a lot of these international clients to make their corporate communications.
That sounds like a really fun job. Wow. Somebody got to grab that one. So let's put that one on the link too, okay? So we'll get there. Yes.
Hi, my name is Chris Molyneux. I'm with Evolve Energy. We're a retail electric provider, and we're looking for a data scientist to take all the information from our app and from all of our customer database and help us use that information in a thoughtful way. So if you're interested or know someone that is, I'll give you my email address.
That's awesome. And I also got a message from someone, and I'm going to pull it up, but there is a job that's available, and she asked me if I knew someone who would be interested in it. It's interested in a client relationship manager position at Myriad. So they're a healthcare, and you get healthcare there and 5 weeks of vacation. Wow. Okay, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, client relationship manager position at Myriad. So let me know about that if you're interested in that. Okay, so I think that's it. Next month, we are going to have a media panel. So we're going to have journalists coming in to talk about how they're using social media to engage with their audiences and get more readership. And also, I'm going to ask them some questions about how we can engage with them if you're interested in that too. So mostly television reporters in this case. So it should be really interesting. So I think that's it. And I think the rain is, no, it's not dying down. Anyway, so if anybody needs coffee, let's come up and talk. And I'm going to open up my laptop if you're interested in that Searchy product. I mean, it's blowing my mind. Take care.